Being an American is a blessing.
We take things for granted here in America.
We have brave men and women that have signed up to do this, that have dedicated their lives to fight for our freedom.
Veterans Day is a pretty big day. I'm very proud of all the people, not just that I know as far as friends, but especially my family.
Military families and people who have been in the military see it differently because it's real for them.
You've had those moments of wondering if they're going to come home. Not when, but if. And that's just different.
My husband Jacob is in the military. He is a staff sergeant in the United States Air Force Air National Guard.
My cousin, I pretty much helped raise her, but her name's Bonnie, and she is still in the military. She serves our country as an Army medic.
My dad was in the military. He's retired now, but he was in the Air Force, and when he retired, I believe he was a master sergeant.
My grandfather was in World War II. He was a sergeant for the Army. And then now my daughter is currently serving in the Oklahoma Army Guard. She is finishing up her combat medic training in Fort Sam Houston.
My husband, he was medically discharged from the Army. He served 5 years in the Army. My dad, he retired from the Air Force as a tech sergeant. He was a logistics engineer, so he was a war planner. My papa, Clyde, and he was in the Army. He was just too young for World War II, and so they threw him into Vietnam, they threw him into Korea.
Originally, my grandma was supposed to be in the military, but she didn't, but my grandpa did. And then it came down a generation, and then my mom joined the Army. Her name is Trisha Bingham. She was a commander, but she left her position and went back to captain.
My pastor's wife, who's a really dear friend of mine, she served our country in Afghanistan and Iraq after 9/11.
My husband served in the reserves. My dad served during Vietnam in the U.S. Navy, and my grandfather, who is still alive today, he served and was in Pearl Harbor. He said that he can remember, seeing the planes flying over, and they thought that it was just a practice mission. Then he realized that this was the real thing, and they were trying to run to cover, and he has memories of bullets shooting past him, hitting the trash cans.
And she was in Afghanistan for 2 tours after 9/11 as a medic, and she just helped save the soldiers after they were injured and hurt, and really impacted her. And she came home and has continued her work in the reserves back here in Oklahoma.
And he served in New Guinea and Australia, and he ended up just serving, general infantry.
He was this very commanding man because of the time he served in the Army. In the 101st Airborne, Screaming Eagles in Korea. So he jumped out of airplanes.
He's been deployed twice so far. He went straight out of high school. He didn't have to go to college. He got to do a lot of training through his job. So the government job that he has now is strictly because of what he did in the military.
When I was 5, going on 6, we moved to Belgium.
One of the houses that we lived in was across the street from some building that just had a tank hanging out front, and so my friends and I would play on this deactivated tank.
Whenever she leaves to go out on humanitarian missions and stuff like that, we learn that, they don't get the luxuries we do.
They left behind their family to go and protect mine.
He was deployed last June to January.
You kind of had to grow up a little bit more faster because you didn't have both parents there all the time, especially when I was really little. My dad was gone for longer periods of time.
We've gone multiple Christmases separate, and I'm sure it's hard on them too. I remember a picture that he sent us on Thanksgiving, and they had it looked like an elementary Thanksgiving. They had stuff on the wall, they just try to make them as home as possible.
They're not around for, sometimes they miss a birthday, or sometimes Like when we first moved back to Oklahoma, the first tornado that we were dealing with, Dad was not there. Because it's a huge sacrifice that not only they're making, but they're making for their families as well. It's not just the person who's in the military that's in the military, like the entire family is serving.
It's been a huge sense of pride for me, but it's also been very scary having her away from me. She's been gone about 6 months now.
I always knew that my grandfather had served, but I guess I didn't really fully understand the importance of what it meant. He went on to fight in Guadalcanal, the Solomon Islands, until he was injured, and he has a Purple Heart.
Papa was very clear, you don't ask vets what they saw, and he drilled that. So all of us kids grew up knowing you don't ask. If they're willing to share, that's a really big thing.
I have all of his letters that he wrote back home to my grandmother.
I learned stuff about the military I never, normal people wouldn't learn about, and it's very different than usual families, I could say.
Military people have higher discipline standards, at least in my experience, than potentially parents who are not in the military.
Definitely harder when you hear people talk negatively about the military, because that's somebody that you know that's been in that situation.
I've learned to respect the military a lot.
There's a greater sense of respect because you're aware of the lives involved. It's not just some entity that, yes, there's a sacrifice, but it's not your sacrifice.
It gave me a real deep understanding for why you work hard.
Yeah, I'm planning on joining the Air Force when I grow up to be a mechanical engineer there too.
The fact that people are willing to lay down their lives for people who they don't know.
I'm definitely most grateful that we do have the opportunity to share our perspectives, and that we do have someone that's constantly fighting for our freedom.
I think a lot of times, especially some of the holidays, like July 4th, where we celebrate our freedom, and Veterans Day, and all of those things, I think have a different meaning when you've had someone serve.
I think people are like, yes, I'm American, but they don't really think about what that means as a citizen of the country and what your responsibilities are.
You take for granted that you get to be free and live in a country where you can do and think for yourself.
I'm thankful that they were willing to be there and do what they needed to do so that I could be here and do what I want to do.
I am more aware of and take more seriously the civic duties given to me as a citizen.
All the soldiers have shaped really our country, and it makes me proud to be an American.
I am just grateful for our military and what they do for our country every day.
I've really had respect for the military, and I appreciate everything they've done for us.
Thank you for your sacrifice.
Thank you for your service. I know it's difficult, but I'm definitely glad that you chose this avenue.
Thank you so much, because what you do makes my entire life possible.
Thank you for making this a free country that I've been able to grow up in and that I'm able to raise my family in.
Thank you for choosing to serve such a hard role. No matter how long you were there, no matter what you did, and thank you for being proud enough of this country to stand up for this country. And that would be it.